Peterson, Scott Leclerc,
Here.
Adam Varley,
Here.
Edward Weber, here. Alderman David Tenza, Alderman Marianne Mazzilagoya, Steve Dukraine, David Robbins,
Present.
Jerry Rapucci, Maggie Harper.
Here.
Okay, great. So we've got 6 members. We have a quorum. Next, I'd like to have everybody take a look. You have in front of you some minutes from the March 22nd, 2019 meeting. Has anybody had a chance to take a look at those and want to make a motion? Excuse me, April 11th, I think, right? Those are the ones you have. April 11th.
April 11th.
Yeah, April 11th, 2019. Has anybody had a chance to take a look at them and want to make a motion whether they're ready to be accepted or need to be amended? Mr. Rapucci?
That's our last meeting, right?
Correct, yeah.
I make a motion that the minutes be accepted as written.
So we have a motion to accept as written. Do we have a second on that? Second by Mr. Weber. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstentions? Myself and Ms. Harper. You got that, Ed?
So that's 4-0-2.
Who abstained?
Myself and Ms. Harper.
Okay, great.
Okay, communications. Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Planning Board. If you turn to your packet, there are 2 items. You have a preliminary agenda to determine regional impact, and then also you have a notification that other business item 2 was withdrawn. That was a street discontinuance petition.
Okay.
And also just a reminder to the board that you have a workshop next Thursday, May 9th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
So we'll send out a reminder and an agenda for you. We have 2 items basically on the agenda, mostly to discuss the issue about the construction affidavit, that topic, and then if anyone wants to discuss sidewalks, there always might be a topic of discussion.
Okay.
I don't anticipate it being a long meeting. If anyone else has any other topics, I'd asked the board, I think, since last March, and
Yep.
we haven't had anyone that's brought up anything
Okay.
to staff, but if you have any questions, let me know.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, report of chairman, committee liaison, Ed?
Yes, Historical District Commission met April 22nd, 2019. Applicant was 59 Concord Street. They requested temporary gas tanks until a permanent gas installation could be done. They got approval.
Okay. Okay, so at this point, I'll go ahead and read the procedure of the meeting and hearings. So the procedure of the meeting and hearings are as follows. After each legal notice or conditional special use permit, site plan, or subdivision is read by myself, the board will determine if the application is complete and ready for us to take jurisdiction. If we do take jurisdiction, the public hearing will begin, and the applicant will, or their representative will be given time to present an overview and description of their project. They'll speak to whether or not they agree with the recommended staff stipulations, and the board will then have an opportunity to ask relevant follow-up questions of the applicant or staff. Next, I'll ask for testimony from anybody in the audience. First, I'm going to ask for anybody wishing to speak in opposition or concern to the plan, and they can come forward and speak. If you do come forward, when you get to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. This is a time for you to express any concerns you may have regarding the plan. Next, I'll ask if there's anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the plan. Next, the board will then ask if there are any relevant follow-up questions of the applicant. The applicant will be then given a rebuttal period, at which time they will respond to any concerns raised by the public testimony. If so needed, I'll allow 1 member of the public, if anybody has, public folks can get together and elect someone to come forward for one more time to respond only to those items brought forth during the applicant's rebuttal period. After this is completed, the public hearing will end and the board will resume public meeting, at which time we'll deliberate and vote on the application before us. I'd ask that both sides keep their remarks to the subject at hand and not repeat what has already been said. We want to be fair to everyone and make the best possible determination based on testimony presented and considering all of our applicable approval criteria established in the Nashua revised ordinances for conditional special use permits, site plans, and subdivision plans. I thank everybody for their interest and their courteous attention, and ask that if you do have a cell phone at this time, that if you just put it on vibrate or silence it. All right, thanks. Okay, so old business conditional special use permits, there are none. Old business subdivision plans, there are none. Old business site plans, there are none. New business conditional special use permits, there are none. New business subdivision plans, there are none. New business site plans. Item number 1, or new business number 1, LaFavor Folio LLC owner, application and acceptance of proposed site plan for the construction of 2 multifamily buildings, along with associated site improvements. This property is located at 93 Lock Street. I'd ask from the board, has anybody a chance to review this application and willing to make a motion as to whether it's ready for us to take jurisdiction? So moved by Mr. Rapucci,
I'll second.
a second by Mr. Barley. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Tom Zajac. I'm a civil engineer with Hayner Swanson, 3 Congress Street here in Nashua. Also with me here tonight is Attorney Jerry Prunier from Prunier and Perlman. We're here tonight representing LaFavor Folio LLC and their property located at 93 Lock Street. We're here seeking site plan approval for a proposed 5-unit multifamily development. I'd just like to give a brief overview of the project, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Okay.
So if you look at the middle plan that's up on the board here, is the existing conditions plan. So 93 Lock Street, map 41, lot 63. It's a little less than a half-acre site located in the easterly portion of the city. We're zoned GI, general industrial. The plan is actually flipped, so if you look at it north, the plan up is south. As I speak to the abutters, we're abutted by Lock Street to the and a mix of residential uses to the north, 4-unit family building to the west, and the large BAE parking lot, which abuts us to the east and to the south. A single-family dwelling existed on this property for a number of years until, unfortunately, a recent fire happened a few years ago, and the house was determined to be a total loss. The property currently has a driveway located off of Lock Street, and it also has a second driveway that's located in this location here. That's off of a shared driveway that connects to the BAE parking lot. The property contains varying topography. The front portion of the site is relatively flat and drains back towards Lock Street. The central and rear portions of the site contain more moderate to severe topography, and there's a retaining wall that abuts our site and the property to the west. The site is serviced currently by public sewer, water by Pennachuck Waterworks, underground gas, overhead electric, and telecommunication utilities. In August of last year, a use variance was granted by the zoning board to allow a 6-unit residential building upon the property, residential use being not allowed in the GI zone. Well, as I mentioned, what we're proposing here tonight is to construct a 5-unit multifamily development upon the subject site, one less than we were approved for by the zoning board. The units will be split into 2 buildings, a 3-unit building in the front and a 2-unit building in the back. So early on, the applicant considered many options for the redevelopment of this property and sought to provide a slightly different type of housing product in comparison to the surrounding properties, which are also multifamily, and while still maintaining the urban compact nature of the neighborhood. What is proposed is a 3-story compact townhouse-style units. Each unit will contain 2 bedrooms and a garage on the lower level. The building elevations for the 3-unit building is located in the upper right-hand portion on the board. Rather than having a single building, the proposed design accommodates the unique geometry and topography of the site. Access is provided via a new 24-foot wide private shared driveway off of Lock Street, to be known by the fire department as Opal Way. The existing connection to the shared BAE parking lot will be eliminated. Each unit is provided 2 parking spaces, one being in the driveway in the front of the units and one being the garage space, for a total of 10 spaces on site. This is slightly more than the maximum allowed by code. However, we felt it was important to minimize the potential for on-street parking along Lock Street, and we wanted to provide a full 2 spaces per unit. Associated site improvements include new curbing and sidewalk along the property's frontage on Lock Street, new lighting and landscaping, a retaining wall and guardrail along the southeasterly portion of the site, a privacy fence to provide a buffer along the BAE driveway, new utility services, new drainage, and a subsurface stormwater management area. I'd like to speak to 2 key site elements before I get to the waiver request. The first is sewer. So the project we felt was important to be serviced via gravity sewer. We have an existing 48-inch interceptor that runs right along our frontage on Lock Street that continues east to the river. So what we're proposing is to service all these units via gravity sewer. The site also contains a 36-inch pipe that runs from a large overflow structure in Lock Street and comes across our property. It appears it ran under the foundation of the existing house. This is a pipe that's been there since the 1930s. And what the pipe is it serves as one of the city's 9 CSO overflow pipes. So it runs across our property, across the BAE parking lot, and discharges directly into the river. So based on record plans, it appears the pipe is about 18 feet deep, and as I mentioned, ran under the former single-family dwelling. Our office found no formal public easement across our property for this pipe. We met with engineering staff early on to discuss our design approach and the best approach to either work around or relocate this pipe. And due to the depth and the age of the pipe, it was agreed to leave that in place post-construction of our project. It was also requested that the applicant provide a new 20-foot wide public sewer easement along that route to allow for future access and maintenance of this line if needed. So that's why our plan also respects that easement area with our proposed units. The second piece I'd like to talk about is stormwater. Currently, the site has 2 drainage patterns. Runoff generated from the front portion flows overland back out into Lock Street, where it's captured by curbing and catch basins and enters the combined sewer system. The majority of the flight flows overland in the south-southeasterly direction onto the adjacent BAE parking lot property. A runoff from the BAE parking lot has no formal drainage system, and sheet flows overland also in a south-southeasterly direction and into the river. So essentially, we don't have any sort of pipe or formal discharge from our site. Therefore, new drainage is provided on our project to capture runoff from the developed portions of the site, the buildings, the pavement, and direct it into a new subsurface stormwater management system located behind the rear 2-unit building. Additionally, a leaching catch basin will accommodate runoff from the rear of the 3-unit building. The combination of these practices results in a post-development runoff being less than or equal to the pre-development runoff. Furthermore, the site conforms to the stormwater regulations for redeveloped sites, as we're providing about 55% open space compared with the 10% minimum required by zone. Mr. Chair, we had one waiver request. I'd just like to summarize the letter that was submitted in our package. I alluded to it earlier. We're seeking a waiver of section 190, 198 related to the maximum parking allowed for a multifamily project. The project provides 2 parking spaces per unit, 1 in the garage, 1 in the driveway, for a total of 10 spaces. The maximum required by code for a multifamily development is 9.5 spaces, or 1.9 spaces per unit, so we're just slightly above that by half a space. Parking along the on-site shared driveway is not allowed per the fire department. We've got signage up for no parking there. And as I mentioned, on-street parking is allowed on Lock Street, but only on the northerly side, so we wanted to avoid the amount of on-street parking that would be possible. And given that these are two-bedroom units, we felt it was important to provide two spaces per unit. So in summary, we believe the site application is complete and conforms with the regulations. The conditions outlined in the staff report are acceptable, and we seek your approval tonight. Thank you.
All right, thanks. You've had a chance to review the staff recommended stipulations, in particular, sort of the homeowners association document submission, and the engineering as-built review, and then there was comments made by Joe Mandola.
Yep. So the comment number, or the condition of approval number 2 is fine. We're fine. There were a couple leftover items from the engineering department. We've got no problem addressing those. The as-built plan is fine. I understand that's a standard condition that's been involved with projects going forward, so
Okay.
that's fine with us. My only thing I'd like to add on number 4, which has to do with the homeowners association, is I believe that these are going to be rentals to start, so there would be no homeowners association. So perhaps that could be amended to say that if it becomes a condo, that those would need to be submitted.
All right. Mr. Varley?
So just to clarify then, at least for the time being, the intent is that it would remain a single ownership.
Correct.
Mr. Rapucci?
I don't know if you would know the answer to this, maybe if not, the planning department could tell us. I think it's a nice plan. I think it's probably more desirable than a 6-unit building. But I'm wondering, in the GI zone, is it permissible to have 2 separate structures without zoning relief, or? Because the zoning board approved a single 6-unit building, if I read that right. So by having 2 separate structures, does that violate anything, or is that still within the GI zone permitted use?
I know Mr. Falk reviewed this, and he was, I think I don't know if his comments are attached. He reviews every plan that goes before you for zoning compliance, and did approve this one, and I know it did go to Zoning Board of Adjustment. I don't know the particular details of that approval. Do you, Scott?
The letter's attached here.
Speak.
Yeah, the letter's attached to the
Yep.
program here, and Carter Falk did review.
But the letter
No,
from the
okay.
the letter from the zoning board approves a single 6-unit building, not 2 buildings. That's why I'm asking the question. And I think this is better. It's not a matter of me having a problem with what they want to do. I'm just not sure. I'm asking specifically, does that conform in the GI zone? Is all I'm asking.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't,
Yeah.
do they have to, does the zoning board have to address that, or are we able to just go forward with it as it sits?
Yeah, and I'll try to address that question to you. I was thinking while you were speaking. I know in the GI district, you're allowed to have multiple structures.
Okay.
And since they approved the use of residential, 6 residential units, but he probably felt that you could have multiple structures as well. It's just a question.
That answers it, actually, Roger. If you can have more than one building, then I don't think
Right.
there's an issue. So thank you.
Mr. Weber?
Yes. Behind units 1, 2, and 3, on the, let's see. seeing what it is, as far, it's utility, I think it's utilities, it's, on mine, it'd be second one that shows, your, proposed subsurface stormwater, but behind 1, 2, and 3, the 10-inch PVC, what's that? LCB, what is it for?
It's just a roof leader to pick up the back half of those roofs, so.
And where does it drain off to?
So the roof leader, the 10-inch PVC, drains to a leaching catch basin, which is just off the corner of Unit 3.
Okay, so that has its own, like, subsurface.
Yeah, it picks up just the back half of those small units, so.
Okay. And on that area, you can also see the topographical on that area around 63. Are you going to need to have a erosion type of blanket system on that area?
I'm sorry, which area?
Where it says on the northwest, next to 5 and 4, the 6-3, where it says 6-3, the really high, where the slope is really sharp. Are you going to have some kind of a erosion blanket system to prevent that from eroding on a hard storm? I know it's there now and it doesn't look like it. It has tree system there, but those trees are probably going to be removed.
Some of those trees will be removed, yes, yeah. Kind of that slope, our property line sort of straddles that, so.
Is there any way to, just to protect the homeowner next to you for that purpose?
We can certainly add some. There's none called for in our erosion control plan.
But just, if your civil engineer can look at it, of course, and he can determine what's.
That would be me.
Okay, so when you'll be looking at it to see,
Yes,
you
yeah.
know, you're better qualified.
Yeah, we'll see how it looks in the field, and we'll be doing inspections throughout the project in terms of erosion control, so
Okay,
certainly.
and then on, Joe Mendola, on page 2, second paragraph. Can you comment on the original comment 30, sheet 511? Kind of give a basis for what question was asked and what is going to be done there?
Do you have it in front of you? I have it in my bag, so I just have to go grab what
Okay,
the
I can
original
actually
comment.
say it and then you can tell.
Sure.
Original comment 30, sheet 5 of 11, storm check. Who will inspect and certify? Question. Answer. We are not aware of any requirements that such a system should be inspected and certified. Outstanding comment. Inspecting and certifying that the system is constructed per specification who will need to be performed by a qualified engineer and applicant expense. Okay.
So we're not aware of any regulation that requires us to provide or observe or inspect or provide any sort of certification for such a system. If you have an alteration of terrain project, they've started making the permit holder provide pictures and a letter post-construction, but we're not aware of anything that's in the regulations
Okay.
for this type of project.
Okay, the reason I do it, I've been, for residential, any engineering thing that goes on, you're engineering it, but then somebody else puts it together. And there's no permit for that. And so what I usually do is I put a stipulation that a construction affidavit on all engineered projects like your, that's not permitted, like your retaining wall is a permitted type of thing. So, but any, if a engineered system is put in, it needs to have somebody inspect that it's done correctly per yours.
Right, right.
And so I put in a stipulation that the engineer put in a affidavit, a construction affidavit, to have that it is constructed as per your drawings.
Okay.
So that's why I do put that in there for
Yeah,
that purpose.
and that's fine, and it seems like things are trending more in that direction. We always get worried when we have to certify something because we're not out there all the time during construction.
Right.
You do have, in the as-built condition of approval, there is a sentence in there about the as-built plan shall include a statement that all construction was generally completed in accordance with the approved site plan and applicable local regulations, so
That's it.
that would be
Okay,
fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ed, if I may as well, I believe my discussions with Engineer Dukran is that his office will be trying to inspect these units, infiltration basins anyway, especially on residential projects as well. So there'll be a kind of a general review by a qualified engineer, whether it's a design engineer or another engineer, at the time of, I believe it's CO. And then during the process, I think the city engineer's office is going to start looking at those through the MS4 permit regulations that we have on the books.
Good.
I hope that answers your question.
It did.
Mr. Rapucci?
Yeah, this is more just a curiosity than something I think wasn't done right. It's just, if that easement overflow drain is so old, was there any thought to, if not replacing it, just replacing it under your property before everything is done? And if that isn't done and they have to get at that, is it going to be more than just digging up a driveway, or would it be more extensive than that?
Well, it would be it's a deep pipe. So, like I said, we met with engineering and we talked about the different options we would have. Certainly, it's not the most ideal situation to have a pipe like that running through the site with now a public easement on top of it. But I think that because of the compact nature of the site and the topography and the depth of that pipe, it would be extremely difficult and cost prohibitive to relocate that line on our site. And
Well, even
this-
if you didn't relocate it, did they consider just replacing it so that it has another 100-year life, or that's not an option?
My understanding is that pipe is in pretty good condition for being from the 1930s.
Thank you. That makes sense, too.
It's a pipe that, as I mentioned, is part of the city's CSO program, so it's well monitored in terms of its condition.
Thank you.
I believe they video camera some of the pipes from time to time to look at their condition as well. And sometimes it's better to leave well enough alone. You know, you could get several more decades out of that pipe, if not more.
Sure.
On the utility plan, so you got the transformer pad right on the outside of a curve on what looks like a downhill grade. And sort of our experience with that is every once in a while, a car ends up on the front of the transformer. There's some things you could, I don't know if Bollard's is right, there's elevated pads, you can get them up, it's a pretty small transformer, so you can get it up 18 inches or something out of the grade, or get it pushed back a little. Could you consider something
Absolutely.
like that?
Yeah, we got a little room.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say we have a little room. It's pretty tight there, but I
Doesn't
don't
look like you have a
see any
lot,
reason on why we couldn't either raise it or put some bollards there to add some protection.
Yeah, some of the developments have, it's like a taller pad that's, a car bumper height, so.
Okay.
At least it's pretty, it's in a place that could certainly end up with.
Yeah,
one
it
of
is
those
protected
plows.
by some curbing, but
Yeah, there's a curb, right, so, if you can get it as far back, I guess, off the line too as possible. I know you don't have a lot of space there, but.
sure.
And then just to clarify, you've got sidewalk all along Lock Street being constructed, and your utilities are all underground, including the primary electric and secondary?
Correct.
Yep, okay. Anything else, anybody? No? Okay. All right,
Thank you.
thanks. At this time, I'd ask if there's anybody in the audience wishing to speak in opposition or concern to the plan. Hearing none, anybody wishing to speak in favor of the plan? Sure, Jerry? You're all set, okay. All right, so, any further questions from the board while we're in the hearing here of the applicant or staff? No? Okay. All right, this time I'm gonna close the hearing, and move on to the meeting. So we have in front of us, a site plan with the 5 units here, 2 buildings. I would agree with Mr. Rapucci, it seems like a pretty good layout. I like the idea better than just one big building, and it seems like a pretty good use of the space and the lot, and attractive concept for the buildings as far as I'm concerned. I don't think we had any real, the only thing we really talked about is if it's gonna be a rental, we may want to add something, I guess, to the stipulation number 4. It seems like that is appropriate only if it's, separate ownership.
Yeah, I think it's just
Think-
making that contingent.
Yeah, so something like that. Unless anybody, Ed, I think the stipulation number 6 takes care
Yeah.
of
Yep.
the section of the
All set.
utility structures. So, anybody willing to make a motion, or this point, Mr. Barley?
I'll make a motion if
Okay.
everyone's comfortable with me doing that. So I would make a motion to approve new business number 1 site plan, finding that it does meet the requirements outlined in site plan NRO section 190-146D with a total of 7 stipulations. The first being a waiver request of NRO section 190-198, establishing maximum parking standards, and that would read, is granted, will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulation. Stipulation 2, I think we just need to add a date. Do you have what's the date of that email?
It is,
The 18th.
18th.
And so in stipulation number 2, just adding the date with respect to the email from Joseph Mendola, making that April, April 18th. Stipulation number 3 is written in the staff report. I would amend stipulation number 4 to read, if and when the property is converted to a condominium form of ownership, the applicant shall provide documents establishing the condominium and a homeowners association, which will be responsible for maintaining all property in common ownership. The homeowners association document shall be submitted to the Planning Department and Corporation Council for review. And then stipulations 5 through 7 is written in the staff report.
Okay, so we have that motion to approve, as indicated in the, with the stipulations as stated by Mr. Varley. Do we have a second on that? Second by Mr. Rapucci. Any further discussion on the item? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? None? Motion passes. All right, thanks a lot. Okay, so at this point, item number 2 is still postponed to September 12th. Other business, item number 1, review of tentative agenda to determine proposals of regional impact. I think we have an agenda from a tentative or preliminary agenda for our 16th meeting in the packet. Anybody had a chance to review that? Looks like it's just 1 or 2 things on there.
Yeah, so, having reviewed that preliminary agenda, I would make a motion to the effect that there are no proposals of regional impact.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Varley that there are no proposals of regional impact. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Weber. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion passes. All right, our other item number 2 has been removed. And any other discussion items? Mr. Weber?
Yes. Roger, the workshop, is Steve Ducrain planning or engineering planning on being there?
I believe he is. He was going to be here tonight, but I believe he's expecting a grandchild shortly, so.
Could we ensure that someone from engineering is there, seeing what just was there tonight? I think this might, I just have some ideas, and I wanted to have engineering go and kind of go over it, and maybe something in their packet could preclude what we do here, as far as what I talk about a lot with the stuff.
Right, yeah, I'll call him and find out, it probably won't be until next week, but I assume he'll be there. If not, maybe his deputy or
That's fine.
maybe Joe Mandola can be
Yeah,
there.
that would be great. I think, just seeing what the wording they have can preclude and really take care of this, just by them addressing it.
Perhaps, yes.
That's all. So
It'll
I'm
be a
okay.
good discussion, I hope.
Yes, a discussion, not a telling, a discussion. I think it may really help us out, and, you know, by them being notified ahead of time, what we're gonna talk about at the workshop.
Okay. Any other, Mr. Rapucci?
Yeah, if we're gonna talk about this, for me personally, it would be helpful for me to have ahead of time what anyone is proposing we do, so I don't have to kind of think about it just on the fly in that meeting.
The word, yeah.
The wording, or whatever it is that we're talking about, saying, do we want to do this?
Yeah.
I would like to have a chance to think about that prior to that meeting, if that's doable.
Yeah, I'll be putting a packet together tomorrow.
Yeah, excellent.
I had a chance to speak to someone today about that. Director Marchant will be at that meeting as well. And we have the language that the chair put together.
Yeah.
And the staff has come up with, I know originally, a lot of this discussion came up, I know that Ed had spoken with building department. We kind of drafted some sort of an affidavit that might serve in the same light as that affidavit that building department uses for their overall inspection, you know, in terms of certification. So that might work as well. So that will be up for discussion. I'll get that to the board members in advance via email as well as post.
Would it be okay with you, Roger, if we have there might be some questions that won't be able to be answered spontaneously? So, can we direct questions back to you that might need a little bit of looking into, so that we're prepared on the night of the meeting?
Certainly, anytime you have a technical question of staff, you can call us and, or email us. I think the important thing is we don't have,
As long as it's you to staff.
in a public forum,
It
you know, a
won't go to the whole
group.
board, it just go to
Yeah,
you. So you know what's
exactly.
coming, and you'll be prepared to speak to it.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Well, thank you very much. That's a good comment.
Mr. Robbins?
This is, this is just, as kind of a heads up, my wife Donna and I have decided to head south, and we put our house on the market, so I would anticipate in the next month or so, I'll be submitting my resignation, and I will hold off any formal comments until then. But I wanted to let you all know how much I've enjoyed being on this board, and especially thank the staff. All of the work that you do is just amazing, and you make this very, very easy for those of us who sit up here. But as soon as we get a closing date and figure out what's going on, I'll let you all know.
All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's good news, I
Thanks.
guess.
Okay. Any other discussion items?
I think that'll mean party time, I think.
I know, we'll have to get together.
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Rapucci. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned at 7:39.